Welcome back, everyone, to Talking It Out with Bachelor Nation. Today, we have a very special guest, a woman who really needs no introduction. And you know what, Mike? This person is so special to me specifically. I don't know if she's special to you as well, but I couldn't help but want to bring her on for our hot takes because we all know she brings it strong.
She is going to bring that tea hot and piping.
So without further ado, I want to bring on my love, my wife, Rachel Lindsay Abasolo.
There we go.
Babe, what's going on? How are you?
I'm very good. How are you guys? I was about to say, how are you? It sounds so weird. We're family. We are family. I got my husband. I got my big little brother here. I'm good, guys. I'm happy to be on Talking It Out.
No, we're so happy to have you here on Talking It Out. This is one for the books right here. This is an exclusive, the Rachel motherfucking Lindsay.
Oh, okay. He had the MF.
Let's go. Yes, had to. So here on Talking It Out, Big Sis, we always love to do hot takes, right? And this week, you're the first person ever to come right into the hot takes with us. And so I'm going to throw it right up to my big bro, your husband, Bryan. What do you have for us?
All right. So this is a question that we came up with that we want to hear your opinion on. So the question is, would you have still gotten into a relationship with me if you found out that I had cheated on my ex-partner?
Yeah, this is an easy one. Yeah, I would have. You could have cheated on every partner.
Oh,
and
wow.
I would have been in a relationship with you because I guess I would have, let me back up. Yes, I would still be with you, but I would definitely ask you about those relationships, why it happened. Was it a one-time thing? How did you cheat? You know, I would have interrogated you basically. It wouldn't have been as easy for me to say yes, but at the same time, I would have known that I'm different from your past relationships. You're in a completely different place. So we would talk it out. You like that?
Oh, I see what you did there.
There you go.
Time out. But there is a saying that goes, once a cheater, always a cheater. So would you bypass all that?
That's too general for me.
Once a cheater, always cheater. No.
Yeah, because the circumstances can be
Some people believe that.
Some people believe it. And honestly, for the listeners, you shouldn't, because circumstances are different. People are different in their 20s than they are in their 30s. There could be circumstances in a relationship where someone was treated a certain way, or that person might have been treating them a different way. I'm not excusing cheating. I'm just saying that every relationship is different. That's why I would have to have a conversation as to why it happened. How did you cheat? How many times? How did we get here? Like, if the answer was like, I don't know, she looked good and I just, I couldn't help myself. Well, then we got a problem. But I've been hoping that that's not the case.
Fair enough. What about you, Bryan?
For me, I agree with her. I would definitely ask questions for sure. I would definitely want to know the circumstances. Like, was it a one-time mistake? Was it a full-blown affair? Like, I would want to know where her head was at during that time. I mean, if you're going to invest your heart and your soul into a person, like, you definitely don't want to get played, right? So hearing for me, that would be a red flag initially, but I think I would want to hear their perspective. And if they give me all the answers that I need and they give me some level of comfort and reassurance, then I'd be cool moving forward. What about you, Mike?
See, I wouldn't say it would be a red flag unless I found out in a precarious situation. Like, I found out in a different type of way, right? If I'm at my girl's her homie's house and like one of her girls says, "Hey, Mike, just so you know, Brittany used to cheat on everybody," that would make it a red flag. But if this person said Brittany, let's say my girl's name Brittany, right? If Brittany's like, "Hey, Mike, in my past I've done this," it wouldn't be a red flag then, because like she came to me with that information versus like, when the homies got to come to you about some information. I'm going to ask you about it. I'm going to question you. I'm going to interrogate you, like Rachel would say.
Yeah. Or if it was a situation where, like, if I'm like, Bryan, we're going to go meet a couple of my friends. Oh, by the way, I don't know, like I cheated on my ex with this guy who's you know what I mean? Like those would be those would be problems. That would be problematic.
Smash the homies? No, definitely not.
Yeah, we ain't doing
she
that.
smashed the homies.
Yeah, you like the person you slept with is not in the circle no more. Like, no, that is can't do it. All right, so my hot take. I'm gonna start with our special guest. I'm gonna start with you, Big Rach. All right, so when you're in a monogamous relationship and one partner feels something is missing in the bedroom, and they've respectfully voiced their opinions abundantly clear multiple times in a respectful manner, right? As a recipient, what do you do if you're uncomfortable with going outside of your sexual norms?
I gotta really think about this.
That's what we do.
I mean, I guess you have to, gosh, now I really see why this podcast is called Talking It Out. I mean, I guess if that person's going to be open and vulnerable with you with what they desire from you, I guess it's like every situation in a marriage, right? Or a relationship or a partnership, there has to be give and take and there have to be sacrifices. So if one partner is saying, hey, I'd like to explore this sexually in the bedroom, then the other partner, if they are comfortable with that, or if they've never done it or whatever it may be, they've got to express how they feel as well. And it's got to be received. The information from both people has to be received from each other, from the other side. And hopefully they can come to a middle ground on it. Otherwise, they're going to have to go to like some type of sex therapist, sex psychologist. I don't know. I would, if everybody isn't as freaky in the bedroom. So assuming it's a freaky thing that was done.
Freaky. It can be freaky and or libidos, because that's normally what it is. Like, it's different libidos.
Yeah, and that's very, very common. I think that you would hope that the person would receive the information well from both sides, and I think that you just have to come to a common ground on it. I think you have to treat that like you would treat any situation in a relationship where you don't see eye to eye on it, because intimacy is such a big part of a relationship, and so you want to make sure that your partner's pleased and you're pleasing your partner.
Would you not feel good enough if your partner, let's say it's not Bryan, right? But your partner was like, yo, I want X. I love everything you're doing, but this is I'm needing a bit more in this department, right?
Oh,
would you ever feel like, yo, I'm not?
I would absolutely feel like I would feel like I'm not satisfying you. But
so how does your male, let's male and female, right? How does your male partner ensure that you feel good enough, but he still gets his feelings across?
I think that the male, we'll just say it's a male. I think that male partner would have to say to me, to make me not feel a certain way of, I love having sex with you. I love being intimate with you. I love going there. But there are other things that we haven't done that I would love to explore sexually in this relationship. Now, me, I'm going to be like, so this is what you did before in your last relationships? Or have you been watching porn or something? Or is this like, what gave you this idea? Where did this come from? I'm going to ask those type of questions. But seriously, I think you just have to soften the conversation. Just be sensitive that they may feel a certain way, or they may ask you those type of questions where it's like, well, why are you asking that? I think it's just, I enjoy this with you. I love doing this.
I think you take baby steps. Like, take baby steps, move a little towards, like, half the time I feel like, Mike, you were mentioning before the pod, it's like, mentally I can't get there. Or it's like, how do you know you can't get there? Have you tried? No. Like, sometimes people automatically reject something, but they haven't tried it yet. So in order to please your partner, maybe try something that isn't too aggressive or abrasive, or, something that you don't feel comfortable with. And then little by little, like, I hate to relate it to adjustments, but when I adjust somebody, sometimes they don't like it initially, right? And sometimes they don't like, they're like super scared about adjustments, right? But once they get it, they're like, hey, you know what? That wasn't half bad. I kind of like adjustments. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it could be something very similar. They may say, oh, it wasn't that bad. Actually felt good. Like, I get the sentiment a lot with the people that I adjust. But what if it's a hard no? Like, what if it's like, I will not go there no matter what?
So let's go ahead to you right there. So your partner, Bryan, let's say it's not Rachel, right? So your partner tells you, hey, Bryan, I want you to do this. And it's a hard no for you, and your partner wants it.
Well, I don't think it would necessarily be,
I don't think
it would necessarily be on me then, because I'm not the one that wants that. I don't want it. But if the other person wants it, then if it's a big deal for that freaky person, they're going to have to weigh that versus everything else that I bring to the relationship and see the other qualities and see if they could get past that. But if the answer is a no, then they have to make a decision. It's like, are you going to leave me or not be with me because I don't do X? Then, yeah, that's what would have to be.
That's where it makes, I think that there's other options than leave or stay and be miserable. But then also, I just feel like that those are conversations that have to be flushed out a lot more, and pride has to be put to the side.
Wait. I guess
true.
My question is like, right there, I think you mentioned like all or nothing, right? I mean, they're definitely having sex. They're definitely getting down and doing things. But like, what if it's like this extreme, like, it's like, okay, I'm not going to do all that. But it's like you are satisfying each other in other ways.
You're adding what ifs to it. The way I asked the question was really respectful to all parties and very simple. It doesn't have to be freaky. Both of y'all mentioned freaky. It could be simply, babe, I would like to have sex 5 times a week instead of 1 time a week, right? It doesn't have to be necessarily freaky, because I also said sexual norms. What is the definition of norms or normal? It's bullshit, because
it's all different.
Everyone's normal is different. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be freaky. And so I think for someone that is not malleable, therefore pride has to be thrown to the side, culture has to be thrown to the side, religion has to be thrown to the side, friendships and family, whatever their influence is, throw that to the side. It's just about the two of you. You two are the one that are on that kitchen table. We could talk about this all day, but Rachel, this is about you. Enough of the hot takes. It's so good to have you here on Talking It Out. We've been talking about this for over a year now. I know we have Bryan, 2 of us in the team. But it's been like a little over a year since you did Bachelor Happy Hour. And like, you know, the whole nation is happy to have you back.
That's not true.
What's been the biggest change?
That's not true.
It is true, because what we say goes. And this is your husband and your little brother podcast, and so what we say goes, right? And so what's been the biggest change in your life since you left?
Happiness. I'm just kidding. I mean, yes, but I'm kidding. I actually, there's certain elements that there's a weight lifted off my shoulders. There's a sense of freedom that I have that feels really good. I don't feel like, oh, I have to do this. Because when I left Bachelor Happy Hour, and I said this on either the last or the second to last podcast I did, I was listening to old podcasts. And the way that I changed from the start of that podcast in 2019 to the way I ended in 2021, I was a totally different person in the way I felt about Bachelor Nation. I felt like it had just beaten me down. And so to be able to leave it and there to be that freedom of, I don't feel like I have to do things with the franchise, I would just say that like that's honestly, it was the greatest feeling.
So you don't miss it at least a little bit?
No, I don't. I miss people, you know, like I miss podcasting with Becca. I really do. I miss that kind of stuff. I miss the sisterhood. I miss the camaraderie that I have with friendships with people behind the camera, behind the podcast. I mean, I still have those friendships, but you know what I mean? That weekly interaction that I would have. But I love that somebody's like, do you know this person from this season? And I'm like, I have no idea who that is. And no offense to them, I'm sure they're great people, but I love that I'm so detached that it's been great that I can put my energy and focus on the other things. Obviously, I know who the leads are because I'm just probably never going to escape that. But I don't know the drama necessarily. I don't know the contestants. And that feels nice. When you're so embedded in that world, it just feels nice to escape, you know?
And I can vouch for that because I'm usually talking about it because obviously, right, we're on Talking It Out, but she has no idea what I'm talking about half the time.
He'll be playing it and I'm like, turn it down! Cut that shit off!
That shit off!
That's hilarious.
Babe, so we like obviously you're destroying it on Extra. You're on what seems to be like every single red carpet nowadays. What have been some of your favorite red carpet moments and why?
Okay, I'm going to start with the most recent, and that's the Top Gun premiere, Top Gun Maverick. I underestimated, which I feel like I do a lot, and that's just to manage my expectations because I can admit that I don't handle things well when they don't go as expected. So I just always have very low expectations of things. And so I was just kind of like, oh, okay, it's another movie. They waited for years for this to come out. But man, when I got there, people kept telling me, you don't understand how Tom Cruise does it. You just don't, there's this Tom Cruise effect. And so I'm doing the junket where I'm meeting the cast members, but not Tom. And I'm seeing their excitement. And I'm feeling like I've known these people forever. And some of them I actually did know. Then I get to the premiere and you're on the USS Midway, and it's like you're seeing all these fighter planes, and then you're seeing, the naval officers in their crisp white uniforms, and there's a red carpet and there's a DJ. This does not happen on every red carpet. You've got MTV recording live, MTV International at the bottom. There's an audience there. I'm on a platform, and I'm like, did I come to party or am I here for work?
Tom Cruise does it big.
Tom Cruise, but he flies in on a helicopter. He flies the helicopter, lands it there, gets out to do his own premiere. It was just such an incredible experience. And they're not all like that, but that was truly a moment. And it really made me feel so grateful for what I get to do. And just to see people on the start of their career. Like when this movie comes out, they're going to be superstars, household names. And that was pretty cool to be there at the beginning with some of them. What else have I loved? I love doing the ones particularly probably that I watch, like doing Rihanna, Fenty's, the Amazon show, doing that carpet. I actually really got nervous to talk to Rihanna, and I don't normally get nervous. So that was pretty cool. Insecure, because I watched that show, was a fun carpet to do. There's just been so many. It's hard to think of all of them. I really feel grateful for what I get to do.
No, what you do is awesome. I have 2 points to that. One being, do you prefer being the one interviewed or the one that gets to interview people? The interviewee?
Oh, I like being the interviewer, for sure.
Okay, why do you like being the interviewer?
Because I'm a Taurus. I'm an Enneagram 8. I like control. I like to be able to control the conversation and where it's going. But I love talking to people, and I love engaging with them, and I love asking questions. When I was doing my book tour, I was sick of me. I was sick of myself. I don't like necessarily always talking about myself. I love to learn about other people. I love to experience them. And I always learn something, and it's just so much fun. And I just love energy and vibes. So to be the one asking the questions and meeting all of these people, it's that to me is what makes the job so much fun.
I'm really glad that you said that, because I find that so many people have said, oh, this person's full of themselves, this person's full of themselves, when truly they're just trying to promote what they have going on, because this is technically our job versus working as a law clerk or someone that's an accountant or someone that's a financial advisor per se. This is how we do our job. And so I really like that you said that. But then my follow-up was, you said when you were mentioning Top Gun and some of these people, they're about to be big stars now. Do you feel that in 2022 and beyond that we will have another type of Tom Cruise A-list celebrity? And I'll say that because there's so many mediums of entertainment.
Right.
Now.
So no. And it's interesting that you say that, because as I was on that red carpet, several people kept saying, he's like the last one. He's the last one of his kind. And as if there's nobody else to follow. And it's not that there aren't great actors and actresses. It's just the Tom Cruise effect, what he brings to a movie, the way he's so involved, the way that he's down to, like for Tom Cruise, for Top Gun, he created his own Top Gun boot camp. He made the guys take surveys about their training and their experience. It's like the level that he requires to be a part of his film, and he's doing it with you. He's not going to ask you to do something that he's not doing. So you understand why he has MI7, MI8, you understand why there's so many. You understand the magnitude of what he's doing, that just like I don't know anybody else who's doing that or who wants to do it in that way. He's flying these planes.
I kind of feel what you guys are saying. Like, there's not going to be somebody that's larger than life. Like back in the day, the Cruise, the Schwarzenegger, the Stallones, where they were just like these huge action heroes. And
dare I say the Will Smiths?
Yes, you could say
Independence
that.
Day.
But you know what it is too? Our actors, celebrities are so accessible now because of social media. And so that's the change of it. Tom Cruise is almost the last one of that era where it's like, we don't really know what he's doing in his personal life. I literally asked him, what do you do on a day off? And he told me this. walk a red carpet. And he was serious because he's always working. He's not caught. So there's still an illusion. There's still a mystery behind who he is. Whereas with other celebrities, we know everything. We know what they eat, what their house looks like.
That's cool. Let me ask you a question. I'm curious. Who other people would fawn at this person, but then you were like totally composed, totally cool, like if you were just talking to me on a weekday? Like who was that person for you?
Denzel.
Okay.
Oprah, because she really makes you feel like your family. And I don't mean it like I wasn't fazed by these people. I just mean they brought a level of comfort to the conversation where it's like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I'm meeting this person. And they were talking to you. There were no airs about them. They were just having a conversation with you.
Talking about these celebrities and the awesome job that you get to do, and how do you feel, about cancel culture in today's day and age?
Yeah, I think that like most things in life, they get out of control, right? What might have started off with good intentions and people that definitely, I think we would unilaterally agree that need to be canceled because of the vile things that they were doing in the dark and people were too afraid to bring to the light, needed to go,
Yes.
Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby. I think we can all agree that those type of people, Epstein gotta go. But like most things, people take them too far. And I think in ways cancel culture has gone too far. And when I say that, I mean, it's like, well, what's the line? And I don't think there is one. There is no line. The line is blurred. And so because there isn't one, we're seeing it spiral out of control. And it is scary because even here on this job, we're afraid to ask certain questions. We're afraid to, how are things going to be taken? Thank goodness we tape our show, because you just don't know how people are going to be offended by it. You have to be so careful. Like there was room for mistakes. Now there seems to be no room for error. And so I think that that's what makes it scary, especially what we do in entertainment, because where does it stop? So I think that we need to hold people accountable, but I don't think that we need to go to a place where we're just so quick to destroy people's lives. But sometimes it's called for.
For sure. Completely agree there. Like we've spoken about in the past, I feel that it's counsel culture and not cancel culture. Except for those, there's always an outlier that just do something off the wall that got to be
right.
And then, again, on the same thread or within the celebrity aspect and just being in the public eye, you, in my eyes, are a wonderful representation of excellence.
Thank you.
Black excellence, of women in women in powerful positions and roles. And so I want to ask you, shout out to Viola Davis. She became one of the top 75 actors of all time, or this century, I believe. When someone says representation matters, what does that mean to you?
So, like everything, things become overdone. And so there's always certain phrases that you hear once and you're like, wow. And then you hear it again, and it becomes, people become desensitized to it. It becomes normal to hear, and they don't really understand the impact behind it. I'm so big on representation, period, not just for my own journey, but because I know what it's like to be a young girl and to feel like you don't see a young Black girl and to not see yourself represented in a certain way. Like Black women have to be one way when they're on the television screen, one way on a music video, one way in media, period. So to see someone like a Kamala Harris, to see someone like Ketanji Brown Jackson, be the first and to take on these roles. You can't underestimate what it is to see a young child who's sitting at home and sees that and says, oh, now I know I can. Not I believe or I dream I can, I see I can. You can't take that away from someone. And that goes beyond Black. I'm using Black as an example because that's me. So I'm speaking from personal experience. But to see yourself on a screen is everything. And I know when we get older, maybe we lose that, but the impact and how impressionable that is for another generation who's watching. And when we do what we do, we podcast, we're on television, you don't get to see who's on the other side of that, who's listening to that, who's watching that. Yes. And those are people that look like us, or maybe they don't, but they're eager to see themselves represented. I talk a little bit about this in my book, but, when people ask you who's your role model, I always say my dad was one of my first role models, because as a young child, I saw my dad break down barriers and be a first in his own career. And it gave me hope, and it encouraged me and inspired me that I could break down walls as well. Because at that age, I'm reading history books where I don't see myself represented unless it's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who's everybody's friend. You know what I mean? And or Rosa Parks, but we didn't learn about us. We didn't study us. We didn't see that. So to have someone in my family who represented that meant everything to me. So that's why it's like, I know how impactful that can be. That's why, not to get on a whole soapbox, that's why it's so troubling to see how there's an attack on our education system and how they're trying to undiversify. I don't even know if that's a word.
It's a word today.
What history is, and take that away from people and make it, and take it back to how it was when we were in school. It's so important that young kids not just believe and dream, but see. It really is.
Shout out to the judge, by the way. You just talked about representation and just, young women looking at you and seeing you on TV every day. Like, what's the best advice that you would give those women that want to do what you do?
Be yourself. It sounds so simple, but it just seems so hard sometimes for people to do. And I get it, because I think we constantly live in a day and age where, because there's so much to consume and it's so accessible to us, it's so easy to compare and think, oh, I got to be just like that. Oh, she did that, so I got to look like that. I got to act like that. I got to be like that. But I didn't get to where I am by pretending to be somebody else. I got here because I was me. And I didn't back down from that. And I stood in that, and I believed in that. And I had the confidence that I deserved certain things that were coming my way. And I'm not taking away from the hard work as well. But okay. You see it a lot in Bachelor Nation, shade, where people try to pretend to be somebody that they're not. Like, oh, I want to be like that Bachelor. I want to be like that Bachelorette. I want to be that contestant, because that's going to get me on the beaches of paradise. That's going to get me the podcast. That's going to, give me this brand deal. But honestly, it's not it. The people who were trailblazers, whether it's in Bachelor Nation, whether it's in media, social media, whatever industry it may be in, are people who were true to themselves and had and worked hard at the same time. So I think the best advice I can give is, you are unique. You have that to bring to the table. And so folks, live in that space. Don't try to emulate people.
That was extremely, that was a really good answer of just be yourself. But in the regards to the representation aspect, because I feel that when more ethnicities and more diverse people, genders, or whatever the case may be, religious aspects, cultural aspects, I think the more we see of that in terms of representation, it eases the bridge to be ourselves and to obtain that confidence, right? Because I know, for example, I was with one of my Asian homies this past 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about the first Asian football player in the NFL, right? And so he was just saying, like, yo, this is really dope to see, because when I was a kid, I never thought that I could be in the NFL. I thought I was just supposed to be good at math. And that's not, someone could say, oh, someone could try to cancel me because I said that, but y'all know I'm not being derogatory, no way. These are his words, right? And so I do think that representation matters, and the reason you said, or what you said was, it allows us to be ourselves. And so, and representation matters. You also mentioned it's not just Black, right? You said that because that's your experience, right. And so I really like that you said that. But let's shift gears here. You had mentioned your book. I'm gonna shout you out. Miss Me With That, right? Where you go? There you go. You see her on the cover right there, Miss Me With That. By the way, side note, is your favorite color purple?
No.
Okay, I just
Black.
Okay, when I saw the book, I just saw that. But you described, Rachel, in your book, the process of writing it was intense, right? Overall, what was the best thing to come out of writing your book and getting your truth out?
Oh man, writing a book, and shout out to my ghostwriter, who's not a ghost. At this point, I'm shouting her out like it's nothing. Sophia Quintero. I think it's just so important. One, to not make people think that I can do everything, because I can't. I would still be writing this book. It would have taken me years if I did not have help from Sophia. So I'm so grateful for her. She pushed me in certain ways, and it was definitely a 50-50 process, but I'm so grateful. I could not have done that without her. But the best thing I would say is, you know what? It helped me live my truth, and things that I was so afraid to maybe share with family or friends. I was able to do that through writing. So it was extremely therapeutic for me. And it also helped me work out certain things. Like, I tackle social justice issues. I tackle realizations that I learned once I pulled my head out of the clouds and I stepped away from Bachelor Nation. I deal with issues with racial identity. I deal with religion and sex. There were so many things that I was so afraid to tackle, or maybe I had conversations with behind closed doors, and definitely not with my parents, that I was able to do through writing. It was extremely healing for me. And the reason that I wanted to do a book of essays is because I didn't want it to be linear. I didn't want you to say like, or I don't want to say like at age 5, I did this, and then at 10 and at 15, I did this. I wanted people to be able to read an essay, put it down, and then flip and go to something else. Or I wanted you to be able to take this essay and say, wow, I might not have known how to talk to my daughter about sex, and my mom did it this way. This is a really good essay to open up the conversation. I feel like you didn't have to be a Bachelor fan to really be able to enjoy the book. And I think that each essay stands alone. So that's it. But altogether, it was very healing for me.
In regards to your essays and your book, Miss Me With That, what was some of the hardest to talk about with your parents?
Sex was the hardest thing.
Why was that?
Because we do not, in the Lindsay household, talk about sex. I don't even really talk about that with my sisters.
Wow.
It's just, I'm close with my parents, and I can talk to them, I feel like, about anything. I would talk about my relationships, my boyfriends, the ups and downs. But when it came to intimacy, we always just like skirted over that topic. And that, you find out why it's so hard for me, because I take it back to, there's an essay called The Missed Sex Education of Rachel Lindsay. And I start with how long my sexual education took for my parents. And it was under 60 seconds. And it was just an abstinence poster posted in my room that was then passed down. It's passed down from my older sister to me, to my younger sister. And so for me, that didn't invite conversation on sex. It was kind of like abstinence is the only way. That's it. And that's a message that was reiterated at school, because I went to a private Christian school, at church, with my friend groups, with all that. And then family.
What church you go to, by the way?
Concord. Well, at the time, Rising Star Missionary Baptist Church. But once I became an adult, I went to Concord.
Okay, I know Concord.
So that's where, and I still watch the Streaming Faith. But that that was kind of like set the foundation of sex. And so to me, it just felt taboo. It was fine to talk about it as long as I was a virgin. But the moment that I lost my virginity, I didn't know who to talk to, who to turn to, because I knew my mom's story and I knew that she was, and I just didn't feel comfortable talking to my sisters. And so with it came a lot of shame that I put on myself. I've talked to my mom since, and for the first time at 36, when I started writing this book, I actually started having these conversations with my mom and my dad for the first time ever in life. And so I unpack my journey with sex and religion and how those two don't really go together if you grow up in a purity culture. And so I really felt like, and then I talk about what I learned and what I would do for my child. And so I really feel like that. And I've received a lot of feedback from other people who grew up in purity culture, who had very similar experiences and thanked me for speaking on it. You know, it wasn't an attack on church or religion. It was my experience and how I struggled with it and how I became lost in it simply because I couldn't have a conversation. Things that I learned as an adult that I just couldn't even necessarily put in the book that would have been so helpful for me had I known that growing up. You know,
what is one of those things that you
I can't talk about it because I can't be talking about family business. But I just learned it and I was like, wow, you know, if I had known that about so-and-so, that would have been nice to know, you know, it would have made me feel more comfortable. And so that I'm very proud of that essay. And because it has opened up a conversation in my family that we've never had before, all because of the book, all because that was very.
How did those conversations go?
Well, at Christmas, my family and Brian's family got together for Christmas. And so I was kind of talking about the book. It was already ready to go and it was coming out in January. There was nothing I could change. And so I kind of hinted that there are going to be some things to my parents that you're going to be uncomfortable with that we never talk about, like sex. And so then my parents started talking to me about things that they had assumed, but they never asked me. And I never, you know, led the conversation with that. So I was like, but I said, but I'm very proud of this essay. I don't want you guys to think that this is me telling my business. I'm doing it with the intention to help other people. Also, I think that you guys are amazing parents, but I think the way that we went about talking about sex was a little problematic. It didn't give me, I felt free and independent in every single area of my life, except for that. And so recently, my mom has been reading it. She's been like really busy. There's just a lot going on. And she recently read the chapter. And so she said to me, I want to go on when I finish the book and like they're doing renovations at the house and stuff. She's like, I want to get all of you guys and go on a retreat. And that literally came from, and we have a group chat, like we talk all the time in the group chat, but she wants to have conversations that we've never had before. And
is your dad in that group chat?
Probably not.
No. This is just the girls. This is just girls. There's a family group chat.
And he doesn't want to be in that chat. He doesn't want to be in that chat.
Cool.
But my mom wants to have a getaway with the girls and like address that things we never talked about. And I don't even know if my sisters will be open to it. Probably my older sister and I will, because we're married at this point. My younger sister, not so much. But that made me proud, you know, and she didn't take any offense to it. She wasn't like, she realized I wasn't saying what she did was wrong or she was a bad person. She did what was the way she was taught. She was taught one way. She was being more open than her mother ever was, but didn't realize she needed to do more. So I'm really proud that we're going to do something that we've never really done before, all based on an essay from the book.
Do you feel like she's making up for lost time? And at the same time, like how would your interactions with your children be? Our children.
Well, I don't think that.
Say that loud and proud, Brian. Come on now. Say it again. Say it for people to
Nuestros hijos. You picked up on that, Mike.
I understood that. I can understand the basics. It didn't. I don't think that she's making up for lost time by any means. I just think that it's just opening a door that we've never opened before. And I think that that's what's beautiful. And as far as my children, I already wrote a whole essay for a bunch of strangers about, you know, the beginnings of sexual escapades, as you want to call them, or learn. And so I will have no problem talking to my children about it. And I think that I will probably, just because of my own experience, I'll probably be annoying. I'll be like, so tell me what's so are you feeling, like what's going on? Like I'm so going to be annoying. I already know I'm going to be too much. I'm going to make them scared where they're not going to say anything because I'm just going to be so annoying.
We're talking about that. I got to know, Brian, how are you going to act? So if Rachel is going to be like the annoying, all of in your business, you know, to y'all's children, how are you going to be?
I'm going to be their best friend. I'm going to be that good cop, right?
So y'all playing good cop, bad cop.
I think it's just inevitable.
No, I mean, I'll have to lay the discipline down if I need to, but Yeah, I don't know. I think our personalities will just work themselves out with the kids.
I'm gonna be like the mom in Mean Girls. Condoms, anybody? Anybody? Condoms? No, I'm not.
Honestly, I think like it always happens. I think we're gonna try to be the cool parents. I'm sure she'll tell you she's always gonna be the cool parent.
I'm totally gonna be the cool parent.
But there's gonna come a point where you're not as cool as you think you are, and we gotta use different tactics potentially.
With that, so
in their eyes, of course,
in their eyes. Rachel, this is specifically for you, but then Bryan, this ties into you as well, right? You are, in my eyes, I tell you this offline, I'll tell you publicly as well. I think that you're amazing.
Thank you.
I truly do. Tu eres muy asombroso. and I don't know why I started to say that in Spanish. Bryan, you started, so I had to say something else, right?
Got you.
But in my eyes, you're amazing. And I want to know from a professional, like, as a professional woman who, like, your career is skyrocketing, right? You're married, you're on the later half of 30. And like, when it comes to having children, how in your brain does that play out? It's like, damn, I'm doing my thing. I'm skyrocketing right now. I want to continue to do this. I'm happy in my relationship with my marriage, my husband. I'm happy with my career. And I want to continue to pursue so many different things, but I want to have children as well. And this is where we differ as men and women. And this is why women are so dope, because y'all literally carry life. Right. And so, but with carrying life, there's a period of time that you will miss out on certain things. I don't even want to use the word miss out. I want to say replace. I think that's a better terminology. You will replace some work things with life things. Like, how does that process work in your head? And I'm asking you basically in saying this for all women in professional realm, but I'm speaking to you directly.
It's not fair. It really isn't.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
We have to make a choice that the other side doesn't. And, I mean, if you want children, right? Like, not all women want children, but if you do want children and you want a family, or you have a partner that wants it, you have to at some point make a choice. And there is a fear of, will I lose what I started? Will people want to hire me after that? And of course, there's legal in place where that's not supposed to happen, but let's be honest, it does. And it's like, will people look at me a certain way? Will I have the flexibility that I have before? And it's a really scary thought. And I'm dealing with that right now. I'm strategically in my mind trying to plan out when could be the best time. And then you're taking your time doing that. And then you also realize that, hey, it might not be easy as you thought. You can't be like, hey, July 2022, I want to make this happen. And then, it can be a lot more difficult from you. I mean, very recently, and they've been outspoken about this, Astrid and Kevin, who are very good friends of ours, they had to go through the IVF process to have children, and it didn't happen as naturally or as easily as they thought that it was. It's something that, as you get older as a woman, you think about all the time. And it's just so, back to the first thing I said, it's just so unfair, because like, you want it, but then you feel selfish in certain ways, because it's like, well, I also want this career, but then I also want to start a family. And I see a lot of women who are able to do both. So I don't want to make it seem like you can't have both. It's just taking that step and actually making it happen. And there really isn't. What I've also learned is talking to a lot of working moms. There is no right time. Stop trying to plan the perfect time. You just have to, do it. Take those steps to do it.
Are you taking that advice? Yeah. Okay, so when am I expecting a little news?
Already taking steps. That's all I'm going to say.
The proper steps.
Hey.
I agree with her. It's not easy. There's never a right time, but I think the word that should be used is adapting, right? It's like one of my favorite books is Who Moved My Cheese? Or I think it was
great choice.
Yeah,
bro.
It's like in life, things change. You got to adapt. And like she said, I think there's evidence out there of women successful like her that have done it as well. And, that also ties in on me, because I'm going to obviously have to step up my role, right? Regardless of what I got doing, because I got my own career as well. And I'm going to have to step up and help her, pick up the slack. And that's why.
You ready for that?
Yeah. At the same time, it's like, even if I'm not ready, I just gotta be ready. You know what I mean? Like I'll be ready when it happens. Like that's the attitude you gotta have.
But let me tell you, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you finished.
No, it is what it is. Like you just, like, I don't think anybody's ever ready for it. They just do it, and baby after baby, maybe it gets easier. But yeah, we're gonna be.
How many babies after babies are we having?
Well, it was 4. It was 4, but we gotta cut back now. Okay, I'm 37.
See,
I'm 37.
I always told her, I was like, let's have 2, and then let's see where you're at. And she's already turning.
At 37. But I'm telling y'all, if y'all don't think I'm gonna be one of the people who, I'm gonna be like, give me one of those things where you just slap that baby on the back. I'm gonna be doing interviews with that baby sitting on the back or on the front. I'm gonna be moving, because it's like
to be working out, doing squats with the baby in the back.
Yeah, our parents did it. Like my mom worked, Brian, your mom worked, Mike, I'm sure your mom worked too. Like they did it, definitely. They made it happen. So it's like, I know I can. It's just a matter of just like taking the steps to do it. It's scary. It's scary when you get in that place. And yeah.
So if you can ask God, hey, this is how many I want. We looking at 3 right now?
It's good.
That was my number.
I'm a middle child. Okay, I'm a middle child. There's nothing like them. So I would love to have 3.
You got that right. Ain't nothing like the middle child.
two minimum. 2 minimum.
Okay, 2 minimum. So keeping that thread alive of, just being busy and so many things going on in y'all's lives. How is it like in an Abasolo relationship of just keeping that flame alive for the two of you's relationship?
Yeah. I mean, you want to answer?
No, go ahead.
I mean, it's work. It's work because Bryan is a sole practitioner, starting his practice, like full time in it. He works long days, and our schedules don't always meet up. When I'm in busy season, I work early in the morning and then late at night. And so sometimes you can be passing each other in the night, or you're just so exhausted that you just go to sleep and you pass out. Like there are times I'm like, oh, Bryan, I'm so exhausted. He's like, yeah, me too. And it's like, all you can do is just eat and fall asleep watching TV. And recently I put up, I actually wrote about it because I have a
shout out.
Thank you so much. I have a blog, Honestly Rach. It's on Meta Bulletin. You can check it out. New articles post every week. And Bryan and I went to his nephew's wedding. And one of the things that the pastor said, one of the things that the priest said was that don't forget to date each other. And it took me back to when Bryan and I were in counseling, and Pastor Carter from Concord said to us, make sure that you date each other. And he said you should do it once a week. We definitely don't do that. I'm be very honest. But that reminded me when the priest said that, because I remember I turned to Bryan and I was like, remember when Pastor Carter said we have to remember to date? And I wrote about that, and I was like, that was a beautiful reminder of it's so easy to get caught up and to get complacent and to just do the same thing every day and have, you have conversation, but you're not, as you said, you're not like lighting the flame, the spark might not be there. So I asked people even on social, like, give us suggestions of things to do, like simple date nights. And so like this weekend we tried to go to the movie. Did you tell Mike? We tried.
No, I didn't. It was an epic fail.
We
literally ordered the tickets online. We're set to go. I picked movie theater here in was it Westwood?
It's Westwood,
right? In Westwood, we wanted to relax, kick back in the reclining chair, get some dinner. Like I wanted to, give her the ultimate experience. And there was a plumbing issue in the theater. We literally drove half hour, get to the gate, to the garage, and the security guard comes out and is like, yeah, the movie's closed. And the movie theater's closed because of a plumbing issue. So we ended up going back home and watching. Yeah.
We took it as a sign. And I want to say this because I want to be consistent on like what I said with higher learning. Bryan and I were actually, that was Saturday. It was this past Saturday, May 14th. I'm not sure when this podcast will come out. And we were very hesitant. We didn't want to go. That was the same day as the shooting in Buffalo. And I had told Bryan, I literally was about to express to him, I don't want to go to the movies. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel safe. And before I could say it, Bryan said he didn't want to go. He didn't feel safe. And for hours, we were just like, should we go? Should we not? We don't feel comfortable. We just didn't feel safe. And I think that's a reality that a lot of people feel in this country, not to get off topic, but we finally were like, okay, we're going to go. And then there was the plumbing issue. And we took that as a sign of like, maybe we shouldn't have even gone anyway. So we never ended up going.
I'm a big believer in listening to the signs around you for sure. I would say, Bryan, can I give you a piece of single guy advice?
Talk to me, bro.
Well, be careful, okay? Don't be giving them too much single advice.
Big sis, I got you. I got you. Yeah. So, Bryan, right? In that situation, I would have parked the car somewhere, not near the movie theater, and I would have said, babe, we're going for a walk.
Okay.
And I would have walked her, Rachel, I would have walked her to somewhere that she likes to get a snack, her craving snack. I would have walked her to that place and then sat down somewhere, sat down on the grass, sat down on the bench, and just chop it up with her.
That's a very, very
it's
good
a
idea.
beautiful,
very romantic idea. Now, I will tell you, there were options put out on the table.
He did. I said,
I was like,
well, see, Bryan, I said, don't ask her. I didn't say ask her. I said, Bryan, Bryan
just
said,
take her. Just tell her.
Just take her.
Okay.
Sometimes you got to.
In his defense, he did. He was like, "You want to go to one of the restaurants around here?" I was like, "No, I want to go home."
She did want to go home. She was like,
"I was like, that's a sign. That's a sign. Let's go home. We can have like
we'll watch
a beautiful
Netflix.
night. Yeah,
that's it.
Home.
Yeah, yeah."
Last question I have to ask about the two of you because I look up to you guys, right? I genuinely want what y'all have. What's one thing that you two, as a couple, as the Abasolos, people would be surprised about?
I mean, I don't know if this is surprising, but this is a quality that is a game changer for a lot of men. We sit down and watch like First Take, Sports Center, all the time together.
Yeah, we do. First thing
and
in the
like
morning,
we actually discuss sports. Like I don't know how many men or women out there actually do that together when they're married, but I
feel like that's
the ultimate right there.
Like,
and she could give it back too. It's not like she's gonna have an opinion.
That's like the cherry on top.
To have an opinion on sports,
he does. He turns on First Take and and
she doesn't change the channel.
Like,
that's key.
Literally the other day we were talking. I was like, "Did you just hear what Patrick Beverly just said?" Like I was about to ask you that. What are your thoughts? To Bryan, I'm like, "Did you just?" He was like, "That's why I turned it on." He's like, "That's why I turned it on."
Do you have a response to like what is something that people wouldn't know about the two of you as a couple?
I'm trying to think. I'm like,
Bryan's overthinking.
Rachel is married to a chiropractor and she doesn't get adjusted.
No, people know that.
What? I didn't know
yeah,
that.
See, there you go.
Yeah, when Bryan was talking about people taking baby steps and it's like, oh, see, you tried it. It wasn't that bad. He's talking to me. He's 100% talking to me. I just can't stand the popping noise. I can't get past it. So no, yeah.
We need to start a petition, Mike. Get Rachel to get adjusted.
Just put some headphones
there's
on
no adjustment. I don't know. Maybe because the reason I keep getting stumped is because I don't want to use the word boring because I'm never that. I only think boring people get bored. But bored isn't it. I was just gonna say like we are so like simple. I feel like in what we do. I'm a lot, but at home I feel like we're very. We're watching the game.
Like the other day, we were at the pool.
Oh my gosh,
you were in the pool.
He was laying
I was getting
out.
some sun.
I was drinking.
Chopper was out there.
Yeah, so I think it's like we live in.
She said he was laying out. I'm drinking.
Bryan's working out.
I'm over here drinking. Were you with Justin talking about Bryan's body?
Yeah. But I think people would be surprised to see like and I really think this is a tribute to our parents and our upbringing. It's like it's just very normal, But lately, I've had more time on my hands. So Bryan comes home. Surprise, guys, to a home cooked meal. I mean, these last
damn good too.
These last couple of weeks, I'm like, you know what? I've got some extra time on my hands. I'm gonna cook, and I find a little joy knowing that Bryan's gonna walk through the door. And like I've cooked because I don't do it all the time, and I'm never gonna do it all the time. But when I do it, there's that element of surprise in the relationship. So I think people would be shocked to see how I love the element of surprise. Simple we are at home. Yeah,
how normal. And Rachel, before we let you go, we couldn't let you leave without getting your thoughts on a little tea that's been going around.
When is there
Bachelor
not
Nation, right?
tea going on?
What are your thoughts on what Blake Horseman said when he was asked for his advice on people that may go to Bachelor in Paradise? he had mentioned to be careful of the official Bachelor podcast hosts if they are down there. So basically, all the podcast hosts for Bachelor Nation that are single, or myself and Natasha, mentioned be careful of the official, us podcast hosts. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm going to split the baby on this one, which might shock you guys.
Okay.
Now,
no,
on one hand, let's be honest, doesn't Blake have a podcast? So he's got a podcast to promote, okay? So Blake knows that by saying something related to Bachelor Nation, he's going to get a rise out of people. And I would say that Blake has kind of replaced some people who aren't really a part of Bachelor Nation anymore as the one to say something spicy, right? People are kind of like giving Blake this title of, oh, Blake keeps it real. Blake's going to tell you Blake's out of contract. Blake's going to get, we believe what Blake has to say, but let's also be honest. Blake, it's just funny to me. And I like Blake. I don't have an issue with him, but it's interesting to me because just a couple of years ago, you were all in this thing. Now you're like all anti this thing. And I was one of the people who had Blake's back because I definitely believe he was people were unfair to him and he was definitely going through his mental health struggles. But I find it interesting now that as much as you went through and what you endured with Bachelor Nation, please don't comment on it. And the reason you are commenting on it is because you have a podcast that you have to promote. You want to establish yourself as the person who's anti-production, and you want to establish yourself as the person who keeps it real, and people are going to come to you because you're going to say what other people are too afraid to say because you're not under production.
Okay, so if Blake was here right now, what he would say is, well, Rachel, they gave Natasha a rose. I gave her a production rose. They did.
This is what I mean about splitting the baby. So let's be honest. Doesn't Pauly work for the show? Pauly himself walked out and gave Natasha a rose. Do I think she deserved to be there and get a rose? Absolutely. Do I think that
she was screwed over.
That's what I'm saying.
Like more than anybody has ever been screwed over. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
No, yeah, she deserved it. And we saw her mistreated in a way that, as long as I've been watching the show, I've never seen before. So I understood why she got a second chance. Was it a production rose? Of course. Yeah. Did production make that decision? Absolutely. I think that's obvious. That's nothing profound, Blake, that you said.
Did they do that, though, because she has an official Bachelor Nation
I do
podcast?
think that it benefits the podcast for you guys to do well on these shows. Again, I don't think
So you're saying I
don't want to see you back on Paradise, but I think that it will do nothing but promote your podcast if you do go. And to use the words of Blake, use them like they use you. But I just more so mean, like, I don't think that what Blake said was that wild or that profound. Obviously, more screen time you get is better for whatever you're doing, especially if your podcast is related to the show and you go on the show, of course it's going to be better for you. So yeah, if you go on, it's good for you in this podcast. If Natasha went back, it's good for her in the podcast. And no, I don't think that you're going to be painted in a bad light, but it's not because you're a production, because you work for, it's not even ABC that you're not even ABC employees, but with this podcast, but it's not because you have a podcast. You're going to get a good edit because you're fucking good people. Okay. You and Natasha are going to get good edits because you're good people, and there's no edit. You're like, y'all just aren't bad people. They're not having to try really hard to make you guys look a certain way. So I think that in true Bachelor Nation fashion, people have acted like something so deep and profound was said. And to me, it wasn't that big of a deal. I almost wish Natasha had not responded, because then it just gives people an opportunity, because Blake has, now that he is not affiliated with the franchise in this world, he is dubbed the guy who is not afraid to speak against the show. Natasha has a podcast. Even if it was me, they'd be like, well, at the end of the day, Rachel works for Bachelor Happy Hour. So how much can we trust her?
I disagree with you there, because I believe, Bryan, correct me if I'm wrong, our very first podcast episode on Talking It Out, you asked me about how I felt about being the Bachelor. And I spoke very candidly about the bullshit. And so that's why I disagree with that, because I speak candidly, and say whatever the hell is on my mind.
I think you do.
I truly do.
And I think I did as well when I had a podcast. But I do think that his point is right about your podcast benefits by you being on the show. So they're not going to want you. They're not going to want you to look bad, but it's not because you're going to be bad.
If I was Chris Bukowski and I had a bar, I'm sorry to cut you off. If I was Chris Bukowski and I had a bar, if I'm on Paradise, whatever I have going on is beneficial.
But
like if I have a book coming next month and I go on Paradise and then the show's out, of course my book will benefit. But I think
what Blake was trying to say is that if you guys do something bad, we're never going to see it. And if you guys,
I think that is what he was trying to say.
If you guys are mistreated, like if someone dates you, beware. If like that person who works for the podcast feels a certain way about you, you're going to be the bad one, not them. And my argument to that is, you and Natasha are great people, so that's not even going to be a situation. And let's not act like that was Natasha's situation, which is where I do understand why she got sensitive. That wasn't her situation with Brendan. Brendan was just a really shitty person.
Yes.
And what do you feel about what she said? Because I mean, wasn't she saying that if people were supporting Blake, then essentially they were supporting the toxic behavior of people on the beach, which we all know who that was, and that was Brendan. I mean, how do you feel about what her answer was when it came to that?
Well,
her response to Blake.
This is Bachelor Nation, so a white man is always going to get preferential treatment in the argument over the black woman. Sorry, because I did see that people were coming.
A lot of people were Team Blake.
Yeah, and we're saying, oh, Natasha was bitchy and this and this, because
mean girl,
that's just always going to be how things go in this world. And I think that this is why I feel like I didn't want Natasha to speak on it, because it's like she's already spoke at great length about the Brendan situation. And I think we all can agree that he was in the wrong with that. So she didn't really have to address Blake. And all it does is give Blake certain attention that he wants, because again, he's got a podcast to promote and he don't have a TV show to be on to do that. And you can be at Stagecoach and he's definitely doing his thing, DJing, but that's not necessarily going to translate to podcast listeners the same way saying something about Bachelor Nation will. But I definitely think people are coming at Natasha in an unfair way. And I do understand why she can say, I do understand her logic behind it. That if you're agreeing with Blake, then it seems like you're saying that Brendan wasn't all that wrong in what he did.
To be succinct, you're saying you feel that what Blake said has validity. Yes, Natasha or I from the Bachelor Nation podcast, if we do something stupid, that we will get favor. But also you're saying that he is a white guy. When it comes to this versus that, he is going to win that. Yeah.
People are always going to give him credence over Natasha.
I got you. I appreciate you. I thank you so much for being yourself.
Me.
I appreciate you for missing you with all that BS and keeping it 1,000%
miss her with that.
To who you are. Yes.
Yeah, no, guys, thanks for having me. It was a long time coming. They said, do you want to come back for a Bachelor Nation podcast? I said, there's only one. There's only one that I'm going to come back to. Shout out to everybody else doing their thing. But,
yeah, shout out to our
this is more home
family
for me.
ties on this one.
Yeah, this is more home for me than any of the other podcasts. But thank you guys so much for having me on.
Thank you. And before we let you go, you got to drop a gem. What you got for us?
Oh my gosh, what do I have? In light of what has recently happened in Buffalo, it is so on my mind. I was actually up late last night writing about it because I just needed to express my feelings. And it's like, I've thought about it. I've talked about it on Higher Learning, and I feel like I need to write about it. And I'm so outraged and angered that it is becoming, we are so desensitized with mass murders and killings in this country, that America is becoming synonymous with that. And I think that you can look at what Peyton is his name killing those 10 people and wounding 3, I think you can look at that tragedy and see so many things that are wrong in this world. Media, social media, gun violence, racism, hatred, politics, just so many misinformation. There's just so many things that were wrong with that situation that led that man, who I don't believe was suffering from mental illness, to go strategically and methodically murder those people because of the color of their skin. And I see so many people say, I'm so sad and I'm so heartbroken. And that's great. But how are you going to act on it? What's next? It can't just be every single time I put up a post that I'm sad and I'm heartbroken. No, I need you to be outraged. That sadness needs to outrage you. You need to feel anger. You need to think that could have been my friend, family member, coworker in that grocery store who went to go pick up groceries for dinner, pick up ingredients for a birthday cake for their grandson, visiting in town for their sister, went to go pick up something to eat, just doing something on a normal day. That could have been them that was gunned down simply because of who they are and how they were born. You're so outraged that you're going to change the way you think, you act, you vote, what you watch, what you follow on social media, so that we can bring an end to this, or some type of awareness and some type of action where we are putting pressure on the people in power to do something. It's got to stop. This isn't red versus blue. This isn't Republican versus Democrat. This is just humanity. And at this point, people don't even feel safe to walk around in this country. So don't be heartbroken. Don't be sad.
Take action.
Take action. Do something. Do something. Educate yourself, inform yourself so you can do something, because I'm telling you, this is not an isolated event. It has happened before. It has not just happened to Black people. And if we don't change things, it's going to happen again. It's only a matter of time.
It's all said.
Very true.
Amen.
I appreciate you for being here. I got so much to say on that, but that's going to literally get me into a whole nother episode because we've ran quite long so far. I agree with you to take action, though.
Thanks for having me. I hope that was a gem I dropped.
Yeah, it was heavy, but it's reality. It's the truth about what we're going through, and it's a sad situation. But just thank you for being you, and being a patron for the fight against gun violence and racism and everything that's happening out there. And I'm proud of you, and I want to follow your lead. So whatever needs to be done, I'm with you.
Bryan, what is your gem of the day?
Well, it's not as heavy as that.
Sorry.
But thank you, babe. No, it's all good. It is. It needed to be said, and for everyone out there, for more talk like that, listen to Higher Learning. Little shout out.
Yeah,
to Higher Learning with you and Van. Gotta love them. But for me, it's actually
y'all should have us on there.
What's that?
Oh, I heard you.
Oh,
I said they should have us
okay.
on there.
I was like, wait, who said that?
I hear you.
I got it's this post on Instagram. It actually could help a relationship out there. And I know, maybe, babe, I was actually thinking, hey, maybe this could work for us too. You know what I mean? I think this could help a lot of people. So, quote goes, some years back, my wife and I got into the habit of asking each other, quote, do you want comfort or solutions when the other was having a bad time? That one sentence can save us from an argument 9 out of 10 times. So
Facts.
It's how you communicate, and just maybe asking yourself that question, because she keeps it real. You know that, right? So sometimes it's like, maybe I don't want, I want to be comforted, or maybe.
Do you want me to put on my wife hat, or do you want me to put on my business hat? That's the comfort solution.
More or less,
that's
yes.
the same thing, right?
Yeah.
That's fair.
And then he'll tell me what he wants. Then I'm like,
Relationship.
all right, I know exactly how I need to be.
I like that. I like that, Rachel. My gem, and Rachel, you don't know this, but I never have prepared a gem. I just always truly try to listen to our guests and derive a gem from what they said. And something that you said earlier today really stuck with me and hit me. When you were discussing your book, it makes me with that. And it hit me because in my book as well, it opened up needed conversations with family. And you mentioned that with your book as well. And so just to our audience out there, we love y'all, definitely love y'all. Maybe you don't have to put out a book, but just write out how you feel and have that conversation with your parents. I think that, like Brene Brown says, and I love to quote Brene Brown, especially right here. She says, vulnerability builds bridges. And it sounds like from your book, Rachel, mixed me with that in my book, Making the Love You Want, we were able to build bridges and stronger ties with our loved ones. And so that's just my gem for today. So thank you.
They're going on a girls' retreat now.
Yeah, girls' trip.
Oh, yeah, no, people ain't going on a girls' retreat. I was like, what are you talking about? But Rachel, Lindsay Abasolo, thank you so much for being here on
Thank you so much for having me.
Make sure you guys check out her book.
Are you cooking dinner tonight or no?
Okay, listen, let me tell you. You want me to put on my white?
I'm messing with you. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Brian, your wife is awesome, bro. I love how open she is, how intelligent she is, and how much she just doesn't care what other people think about what she says, good or bad. I know that must be an amazing thing to have in a wife.
Man, she's an amazing woman. I mean, she surprises me every single day with how much strength she has, and you know, her convictions and her morals and everything she fights for on a daily basis. And I mean, she inspires me. She inspires me to be a better man, and I'm just lucky to have her, for real.
I can honestly say I'm inspired by both the two of you. So
appreciate you, man. And with that being said, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode with my lovely wife. So for everybody out there, thank you for tuning into today's episode.
And you know, we always love to hear your opinions, your stories. Even when you talk crap about us, we want to hear it. So make sure that you don't forget to like, comment, follow. Message us on social at Talking Out BN. That's B as in Bachelor, N as in Nation on IG. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and listen to us on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. And baby, don't DM me no more until you hit that subscribe. We love y'all.